taller, faster, longer. The Coaster Wars were a period of time where roller coaster world records were constantly being broken. If one amusement park built a world record attraction, another would break it, and then another would break that. The Coaster Wars lasted from 1989 to 2005-ish, and amusement parks around the world were competing to beat each other's world records. But even though they're over at the time of this video, there's one world record breaking roller coaster on the way that's going to shatter everything that was ever built during the Coaster Wars. This thing's so massive it doesn't even seem real. Part 1. The Pre-Wars. Before the Coaster Wars, amusement parks all around the world were building world record breaking attractions, but it wasn't all that serious. It was happening kind of casually. Highlights of the world's tallest roller coasters leading into the Coaster Wars included 1978's Gemini at Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio, and remember Cedar Point because they're important. 1988's Bandit at Maryland, and later that same year, 1988 Shockwave at Six Flags Great America. Now, Shockwave, how do I put this gently? Shockwave was a piece of It went upside down 7 times, a world record for the time, and it was so rough that people's heads bobbed back and forth like little bowling balls. Editing Jameson here. Sorry to interrupt, but I just found the promotional video for Shockwave, and they didn't even try to hide it.
After being stunned, passengers have to endure 2 boomerang turns, and a sigh of relief will greet the finish line after riders endure a shaking, jolting assault.
Shockwave was torn down in 2002 because everybody hated it. Shockwave, rest in peace, is many pieces. Bandit, on the other hand, was built by a different roller coaster manufacturer, and that roller coaster focused on going up and down like wooden roller coasters of old. At the time, going upside down was a new popular thing on roller coasters, but when roller coasters were built so big, the technology wasn't necessarily there to make inversions a pleasant experience. In 1988, the CEO of Cedar Point heard about Bandit, and he thought to himself, what if we just built a huge record-breaking ride like Bandit? Something that went up and down but did not go upside down. You know what I'm saying? So you might be asking yourself, what roller coaster manufacturer did Cedar Point hire to make them a bigger Bandit? Could it have been, the company that built Bandit? No, they hired the company that built Shockwave.
A shaking, jolting...
Part 2. Magnum XL200. Aerodynamics, despite the flop at the time that was Shockwave, was actually a big deal. They had made a whole bunch of record-breaking stuff before. They proposed Cedar Point a design for the world's tallest roller coaster, which would have been 187 feet tall. And Shockwave was 170 feet. But then the executives at Cedar Point were like, could you modify that and make it, 200 feet so we can advertise it as the first roller coaster over 200 feet? Because you can market the crap out of a great sounding world record breaking ride. Aerodynamics modified the design, and on May 6, 1989, Magnum XL200 opened to the public. And oh, did people show up for Magnum XL200. It turned out that building a world record breaking attraction could make a lot of money. Also, that's like the stupidest name in the world. It kind of sounds like Part 3, Early Coaster Wars. Amusement parks around the world started looking at the success of Magnum XL200 and thought to themselves, can we build a world record breaking, attraction like that so we could make some money? This whole thing was about money. And so the Coaster Wars began. During the Coaster Wars, tallest and fastest were the main records because longest was like a hard record to beat. So as the Coaster Wars progressed, many parks would try to subdivide specific records so that they could have a record, any record at all. Particular records get kind of complicated, so I'm just gonna touch on some of the highlights because they get subdivided into oblivion. It got stupid. Steel Phantom opened in May 1991 at Kennywood in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It had the tallest drop in the world because it threw people off a cliff, but that drop was the second drop, not the first drop, so it technically wasn't the world's tallest roller coaster. But the ride experience on Steel Phantom was trash. It was also built by Aerodynamics, and that roller coaster went upside down, just like Shockwave.
Shaking, jolting...
They literally learned nothing. Steel Phantom was later redone by a different company who basically just took out the loops. A lot of the rides that I mentioned were actually redone, and a few of them have closed. In 1994, Blackpool Pleasure Beach in the UK decided to ask Aero to build them the world's new tallest and fastest roller coaster, the Pepsi Max Big One. And it was also the world's steepest roller coaster because records. The roller coaster was called the Pepsi Max Big One because it was sponsored by Pepsi Max. Now it's just known as the Big One, and I'm not gonna say what company dropped their sponsorship, but I think it's kind of obvious. max. And then there was the Desperado situation. It's literally in the middle of the desert. Right along the California-Nevada line, you're just driving, there's absolute desert, and then there's this monstrosity attached to a casino. Desperado wasn't the tallest in the world at 209 feet, but its first drop went into a tunnel, which was 225 feet tall, making Desperado the tallest roller coaster in the world according to the 1996 Guinness Book of World Records. But that same logic didn't work for Steel Phantom because its second drop went off the cliff, not the I don't know. At the same time all this was going on, roller coaster manufacturers started cutting track pieces with lasers instead of bending pieces by hand, meaning the ride experience on newer steel roller coasters could be much smoother than ever before. But even though the technology was better, none of the world's tallest and fastest roller coasters and the rest of the coaster wars even tried to go upside down. If you ever go on an old steel roller coaster that's bumpy, it's probably because the pieces were bent by hand. But the company Togo, who built Bandit, also built Fujiyama in 1996 at Fuji-Q Highland in Japan. Fujiyama became the world's new tallest and fastest roller coaster, but then Dreamworld in Australia wanted to make the new world's tallest and fastest roller coaster. So they thought to themselves, what if we make the new world's tallest and fastest roller coaster, but it's just a pole? And so Tower of Terror, this one, not that one, opened as the new world's tallest and fastest roller coaster. But the Tower of Terror just launched you up a spike and then you fell down the spike. And that caused some controversy because Tower of Terror was not a complete circuit roller coaster. Do you count how tall the pole is, or do you count how tall the people are launched up the pole? And then every time the ride launches, people don't launch up to the same height. So like, do you just launch up the tallest? I mean, honestly, it was a cheap trick and it was stupid. It was stupid. So then Six Flags Magic Mountain in California thought, what if we built our own pole roller coaster, except we make it taller and faster than the other pole roller coaster, so then we have the record. So then in 1997, they opened up Superman, but it was just a pole. It was just a pole. Well, actually, it was two poles because there's two of them side by side, but like, whatever. Superman The Escape was the world's tallest and fastest roller coaster when it opened in 1997. It went over 100 miles an hour and had a drop over 300 feet, but the poles were 415 feet tall. Other parks who wanted the world's tallest and fastest roller coaster were like, these pole roller coasters are stupid because you can go so much taller and so much faster, easier than if you built like a whole roller coaster. From research, it seems that when the pole roller coasters opened, parks around the world suddenly remembered that Moonsault Scramble was a thing. Moonsault Scramble was a shuttle roller coaster that opened in 1983, and the back spike was 229 feet tall, except the trains didn't actually go up that high. So where was Moonsault Scramble during the early coaster war discussions? Parks started advertising they had the world's tallest and fastest complete circuit records, because, you know, there was a difference between a full roller coaster experience and a launched pole. But in the year 2000, Cedar Point said, let's build another roller coaster and reclaim the world's complete circuit records. Because seriously, who wants to ride on a giant pole? Part 4, 300 feet. Cedar Point opened Millennium Force in 2000. The Millennium.
You have just broken 10 world records.
When Cedar Point's Gemini opened in 1978, it was the world's tallest roller coaster. Magnum XL200 was the world's tallest roller coaster. Apparently. And that held the record for 5 years. Apparently. And when Millennium Force opened as the world's tallest roller coaster, it only held the record for 3.5 months. Because the coaster wars were not slowing down. Steel Dragon 2000 at Nagashima Spa Land opened in August of 2000. Again, named after the year. Steel Dragon 2000 was the world's tallest and fastest complete circuit roller coaster because it wasn't a pole and therefore not the world's tallest and fastest roller coaster because of Superman. And it opened as the world's longest roller coaster, which is a very difficult record to beat because that involves building a lot of roller coaster. So at this point, Cedar Point was a little bit aggravated, okay? They were dethroned again. So Cedar Point went taller. Part 5. 400 feet. Cedar Point opened Top Thrill Dragster in 2003. In the spirit of the giant pole roller coasters, Top Thrill Dragster launched you up and went back down. Except this was a complete circuit roller coaster, so it launched you up, you went over part of a hill, and then you went down. And that was it. It was 17 seconds long.
0 to 120 miles per hour at 420 feet. The top, you'll be looking 11 stories down on Millennium Force.
420 feet was more than Superman's 415 feet, so Top Thrill Dragster really was, by all accounts, the tallest roller coaster in the world. And Cedar Point had a champion roller coaster once more. All was right in the world. But this was the Coaster Wars. You think somebody wasn't gonna beat Cedar Point? Six Flags beat the height and speed record in the most unoriginal way possible. They asked the same manufacturer who built Top Thrill Dragster, Intamin, to build them the world's tallest and fastest roller coaster. In 2005, Kingda Ka was unleashed, but it was literally a bigger Top Thrill Dragster, 456 feet tall, 128 miles an hour, except it had a hill at the end. So Cedar Point, 4-time world record holders of the world's tallest and fastest complete circuit roller coasters, were like, you know what? We need a new roller coaster for 2007 because they had to reclaim the throne, right? They needed to build something taller, something faster, something 105 feet tall, 70 miles an hour. This is what they built next. You see, it wasn't really cost effective to go bigger and badder anymore. And financially, it didn't really make a lot of sense because Maverick cost about the same as Top Thrill Dragster. Can you market Maverick as well as you can market Top Thrill Dragster? Probably not, but at the end of the day, which ride is better? According to a lot of people, and I am some people, Maverick. Part 6, Post-Coaster War. The Coaster Wars don't have an actual end date. It wasn't an actual war with like a treaty or something. Everybody lost interest at the same time because it was getting unrealistic. From this point, amusement parks started focusing mostly on unique concepts because size is not everything when it comes to roller coasters. In 2010, Formula Rosa opened at Ferrari World Abu Dhabi, which launches riders up to 149 miles an hour, but it's not even 200 feet tall. Plus, the ride is so fast, you have to wear goggles. I mean, it's also in the desert and, you know, you have to wear goggles because there could be sand. I mean, there's multi-purpose reasons to wear goggles. Like, how far do you want to push the human body? At the recording of this video, the world records are fastest, Formula Rosa, tallest, Kingda Ka, longest, Steel Dragon 2000. But all of those records are about to be broken by the most ambitious roller coaster the world has ever seen. And is this being built at Cedar Point? Surprisingly, no. At the recording of this video, Six Flags Quiddiya, which is currently under construction, is building Falcons Flight. 525 feet tall, 155 miles an hour, 2.5 miles long. Steel Dragon 2000 is 8,133 feet long. And Falcons Flight's gonna be like, what? 13,000 feet? I mean that's a lot longer than Steel Dragon 2000. Would you ride Falcons Flight? Let me know in the comments. By the way, did you know Dolly Parton has her own theme park? And no, it's not some small roadside attraction or anything. It is a world-class, bona fide, massive theme park that has roller coasters that are taller than her blonde wig. If you want to know about the history of Dollywood, click on this video next. And thanks for watching.